The Great Hall of the Galactic Council was never meant to hold this many people. Every seat was full. Beings from across the galaxy pressed against walls and floated in the air spaces between levels. The noise was incredible. Hundreds of different languages mixing together in a sound like rushing water. Ambassador Quan stood at the human section, watching the chaos with calm eyes. He had seen panic before, but never like this. Not from so many different species all at once. Something very bad was happening in the outer rim worlds. Captain Nam leaned over to whisper in his ear. "Sir, we're getting the emergency signal now. It's from the Velrani Commonwealth." Quan nodded. The Velrani were farmers and gardeners. They grew food for half the galaxy and had never hurt anyone. If they were calling for help, the situation was serious. The massive viewing screen at the front of the hall flickered to life. The image was poor, full of static and broken lines. Through the interference, they could see a blue-skinned woman in simple clothes. Her face was dirty, and there were tears in her eyes. "I am Prime Minister Teshva of the Velrani Commonwealth," she said. Her voice shook as she spoke. I don't know if anyone can hear this. We are under attack." The hall went quiet. Even the translator machines seemed to pause. Behind the Prime Minister, they could see smoke rising from burning buildings. The sky was full of dark shapes. Enemy ships raining fire down on the peaceful cities below. The sound of explosions came through the speakers, making many in the audience jump. "The Krex Dominion came 3 days ago," Teshva continued. "They gave us one demand, complete surrender. They want to make our people slaves. They want to take our children and—" She stopped, unable to finish the sentence. Commander Park, who stood next to Captain Nam, felt his hands close into fists. He had read the reports about the Krex. They were raiders and killers who moved from system to system, taking what they wanted. They left nothing behind but empty worlds and broken families. "We are not warriors," the Prime Minister said. "We have never built weapons or trained soldiers. We grow things. We make life, not death. We don't know how to fight people like this." On the screen, a young Velrani child ran past behind her, crying for his mother. The Prime Minister turned to look, and when she faced the camera again, her expression had changed. The fear was still there, but now there was something else: determination. "We have heard stories about many of you. The Karathi have strong shields. The Zentari have fast ships. The hegemony has many soldiers." She paused and looked directly into the camera. "And we have heard that humans are warriors." Ambassador Quan felt every eye in the hall turn toward the human section. Some looked hopeful. Others looked afraid. The humans had only joined the Galactic Council 50 years ago, but their reputation had spread quickly. "We cannot offer you much," Teshva continued. "We have no weapons to trade, no rare metals or advanced technology, but we have food. We have medicine. We have trade agreements with 40 different worlds. All of this we will share if someone, anyone, can help us." The image flickered worse now. Behind the Prime Minister, more explosions lit up the sky. A building collapsed in the distance, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. "We don't need an army," she said quickly. "We know we're asking too much. We just need ships. Enough ships to get our people away from here. Our children are dying. Please, anyone, help us." The transmission cut off, leaving only static on the screen. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then the hall erupted. "Impossible," shouted the Karathi representative. "The Krex have 300 ships. No one can fight them." "We should stay out of this," said another voice. "The outer rim is too far away." "What about the trade routes?" someone else asked. If the Kreks control Velrani space, they control food shipments to 12 sectors. The arguments flew back and forth. Some species wanted to help, but were afraid. Others didn't want to get involved at all. A few suggested sending a small group of ships to evacuate some civilians, but nothing more. Ambassador Quan listened to it all with a blank face. He had learned long ago not to show emotion during council meetings, but inside, his mind was working fast. He looked at Captain Nam. The captain was already reaching for his communication device. "Sir?" Nam asked quietly. "Contact Admiral Cho," Quan said. "Emergency frequency. Tell him we need to speak with Terra Command immediately." "What should I tell them, sir?" Quan watched the static on the screen where Teshuva's face had been moments before. He thought about the burning buildings and the crying child. He thought about the Kreks and their demand for complete surrender. "Tell them we have a situation that requires immediate response," he said. "Tell them civilian populations are under direct threat. Tell them—" He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Tell them someone asked us for help." Captain Nam nodded and began making the call. Commander Park moved closer to them both. "Sir," Park said, "the Council seems to be leaning toward a limited evacuation mission, maybe a few dozen ships to pull out civilians." "I heard," Quan replied. "Is that what we're going to recommend to Terra Command?" Quan was quiet for a moment. Around them, the argument continued. Species after species explained why they couldn't help, or why they shouldn't help, or why someone else should help instead. "Commander," Quan said finally, "what do you know about the Kreks military doctrine?" "Standard raider tactics, sir. Hit fast, overwhelm local defenses, demand surrender. They've used the same approach for 20 years. And how many systems have they conquered using these tactics?" 43 confirmed, sir. Maybe more." "How many civilians have died?" Park checked his data pad. "Current estimates put it at 2.8 billion, sir. That's just confirmed deaths. The actual number is probably higher." Quan nodded slowly. "And now they're going after the Velrani. How many civilians live in the Commonwealth?" "About 15 million, sir. Mostly concentrated on the main agricultural worlds. All farmers, all peaceful, all defenseless." "Yes, sir." The communication device in Captain Nam's hand beeped softly. He listened for a moment, then looked up at Quan. "Sir, I have Admiral Cho on secure channel. Terra Command is standing by." Quan took the device. "Admiral, this is Ambassador Quan. We have a situation." He could hear other voices in the background on the Admiral's end. Terra Command was busy today. "I'm listening, Ambassador." Cho's voice was calm and professional. "The Velrani Commonwealth is under attack by the Kreks Dominion. Civilian populations are being targeted. They've asked the Galactic Council for assistance." "What kind of assistance are they requesting?" "Evacuation support. They want ships to get their people to safety." There was a pause. Then Admiral Cho asked, "What's the Council's response?" Quan looked around the hall. The argument was still going on. No decisions had been made. No help was being offered. "The Council is still debating, sir. No concrete action has been approved." Another pause. "Longer this time." "Ambassador," Admiral Cho said, "are you requesting permission to commit human resources to this situation?" Quan thought about Teshuva's face. He thought about the burning cities and the crying children. He thought about 2.8 billion dead civilians and a military force that had never been stopped. "Yes, sir, I am." "Understood. Stand by." The line went quiet. Captain Nam and Commander Park waited, watching their ambassador's face. Around them, the Galactic Council continued to argue about trade routes and political implications, and why someone else should solve the problem. 3 minutes later, Admiral Cho came back on the line. Ambassador Quan, you are authorized to inform. The Velrani Commonwealth that assistance is on the way. Terra Command is mobilizing resources now. How long until ships arrive in their system, sir? 72 hours, Cho replied. Maybe less. Quan felt something like relief wash over him. Thank you, Admiral. What should I tell the Council? Tell them, Admiral Cho said, that when someone asks humans for help, we help. The line went dead. Quan handed the device back to Captain Nam and walked toward the speaker's platform. The hall gradually went quiet as beings noticed the human ambassador moving to address them. Some looked curious, others looked worried. The humans were still new to galactic politics, and their responses were often unexpected. Quan reached the microphone and looked out at the assembled representatives. He thought one more time about burning cities and crying children. Then he spoke. The Velrani Commonwealth has asked for help, he said simply. Help is on the way. Dr. Han stared at the sensor readings and rubbed her tired eyes. She had been working for 3 days straight, ever since the humans said help was coming. As the Velrani's chief scientist, her job was to coordinate with any rescue ships that arrived, but these readings made no sense. Minister Yura, she called to her assistant. Can you check these numbers again? I think our sensors might be broken. Yura hurried over to the main console. She was young for a Velrani, barely past her naming ceremony, but she was good with technology. Her blue fingers danced over the controls as she ran the scans again. The sensors are working fine, Dr. Han, she said quietly. Those readings are correct. Dr. Han looked at the numbers again. According to their instruments, massive ships were coming out of hyperspace at the edge of their solar system. Not the small evacuation vessels she had expected, but huge military warships. This can't be right, she muttered. The humans said they were sending help. These are battleships. On the other side of the room, Communications Officer Day was listening to radio signals from space. His face had gone pale, which was hard to see on Velrani skin, but Dr. Han knew him well enough to notice. Dr. Han, Day said, his voice shaking slightly. You need to hear this. He put the transmission on the main speakers. A clear, calm human voice filled the room. This is Fleet Admiral Kim of the United Earth Navy 3rd Expeditionary Battle Group. We are responding to a request for assistance from the Velrani Commonwealth. All civilian vessels, please clear shipping lanes immediately. Military vessels should maintain safe distance from designated combat zones. Dr. Han felt her heart skip a beat. Combat zones? They had asked for evacuation ships, not a battle fleet. How? Many ships are we detecting? She asked Yura. Yura checked her readings 3 times before answering. 12 very large vessels, Dr. Han, plus 40 smaller ones. And there are more coming. More? Yes, ma'am. Fighter ships. Hundreds of them. Dr. Han activated the long-range visual sensors and put the image on the main screen. What she saw made her sit down hard in her chair. The human fleet spread across space like a metal city. The largest ships were bigger than anything she had ever seen, massive gray rectangles covered with weapon ports and sensor arrays. Around them, smaller ships moved in perfect formation, each one still larger than the biggest vessel in the Velrani merchant fleet. Those aren't rescue ships, whispered Minister Yura. Those are warships. Dr. Han nodded slowly. She had studied military history as part of her xenobiology research. She knew what different types of ships looked like. These were built for fighting, not for carrying refugees. "Get me a line to the human fleet," she said. "I need to speak with Admiral Kim." It took a few minutes to establish contact. When Admiral Kim's face appeared on the screen, Dr. Han was surprised by how young he looked. She had expected someone older, more weathered. Instead, she saw a calm human with dark eyes and a quiet voice. "Dr. Han," Admiral Kim said, "I understand you're coordinating civilian evacuation efforts." "Admiral?" "I think there's been a misunderstanding," Dr. Han replied. "We requested evacuation assistance. Your fleet appears to be configured for military operations." Admiral Kim tilted his head slightly. "Dr. Han, our understanding is that your people are under attack by hostile forces. Is this correct?" "Yes. But are civilian populations being targeted?" "Yes, Admiral, but we only need—" "Then we're here to help." Admiral Kim's voice remained calm, but there was something underneath it that made Dr. Han uncomfortable. "We'll need you to identify safe zones for your civilians. My people will handle the rest." "Handle what exactly?" Admiral Kim looked at her for a moment without speaking. Then he said, "The problem, Dr. Han. We're here to solve the problem." The transmission ended before Dr. Han could ask what he meant. 3 hours later, the Krex fleet arrived. Admiral Vorth stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Death's Edge, and studied the tactical display. 300 Krex warships filled space around Velrani Prime. It was a magnificent sight, the largest fleet he had ever commanded. "Report," he ordered his tactical officer, Commander Drac. "All ships in position, Admiral. The Velrani have no defensive capabilities. A few transport ships, nothing more." Drac paused. "Sir, there is one thing." "What?" "We're detecting another fleet in the system. Long-range sensors show 12 large vessels and approximately 40 smaller ones." Admiral Vorth frowned. "Reinforcements for the Velrani? Impossible. They have no military allies." "Unknown, sir. The ships don't match any configuration in our database." "Show me." The tactical display zoomed in on the human fleet. Admiral Vorth studied the formations with growing amusement. 12 ships against 300. Either these newcomers were very brave or very stupid. "Have you identified the species?" he asked. "Negative, sir. We're receiving a transmission now, though." "Put it through." Admiral Kim's face appeared on the main screen. Vorth had never seen a human before, but he wasn't impressed. The alien looked soft, young, unprepared for real warfare. "I am Fleet Admiral Kim of the United Earth Navy," the human said. "You are ordered to withdraw from Velrani space immediately." Admiral Vorth laughed. Several of his bridge crew joined in. "Human," he said, "I have 300 ships. You have 12. Do you understand mathematics?" "I understand that you have 300 targets," Admiral Kim replied calmly. "This is your only warning. Withdraw now or face the consequences." "The consequences?" Vorth was still laughing. "What consequences could 12 ships possibly—" Admiral Kim cut the transmission. Vorth shook his head in amazement. These humans were either insane or they had some sort of secret weapon. Either way, he would find out soon enough. "All ships," he commanded, "attack formation. Let's show these humans what real naval power looks like." The Krex fleet began moving toward the human position. 300 ships in perfect attack formation, weapons charging, crews ready for battle. It was a sight that had terrified 43 different star systems. Admiral Kim watched the approaching Krex fleet from the bridge of his flagship, the UES Soul's Pride. Around him, his crew worked quietly and efficiently. No one seemed worried about the approaching enemy. "Admiral!" reported Captain Shin from the tactical station. Krek's fleet is moving to engage. Time to contact, 27 minutes. Acknowledged. Captain Wu, status on the marine assault ships? Standing. Bye, sir. All boarding teams ready for deployment. Commander Jang, electronic warfare systems? Fully operational, Admiral. We have locks on all Krek's communication and sensor arrays. Admiral Kim nodded. Dr. Han, are you monitoring this channel? Dr. Han's voice came through the speakers from the surface. Yes, Admiral. I'm watching from our observation center. Good. I want you to see this. Your people asked for help, and we take requests for help very seriously. Dr. Han felt confused. Admiral, surely you don't intend to engage 300 ships with only 12? Dr. Han, Admiral Kim said patiently, we brought 12 ships because we thought that might be enough. If we're wrong, there are more fleets available. More fleets? 17 of them, actually. But let's see how this goes first. Dr. Han looked at Minister Yura, who looked just as confused as she felt. This human admiral was talking like 12 ships could somehow defeat 300. It was impossible. Admiral, Dr. Han said, I appreciate your courage, but perhaps you should consider withdrawal. We can find another solution. Dr. Han, withdrawal is not an option. Your people are under attack. Children are dying. That makes this our problem. Now! There was something in Admiral Kim's voice that Dr. Han had never heard before. It wasn't anger, exactly. It was colder than that. More final. Besides, Admiral Kim continued, the Kreks made a mistake when they chose to attack farmers. Humans don't like bullies. On her screen, Dr. Han could see the two fleets moving toward each other. The Kreks formation was massive, overwhelming, like a dark cloud covering the stars. The human ships looked tiny by comparison. Admiral, she said quietly, what exactly are you planning to do? Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was very calm and very certain. We're going to solve your Kreks problem, Dr. Han. Permanently. The first Kreks ships came into weapons range 15 minutes later. Admiral Vorth had positioned his fleet in a classic attack formation, overwhelming firepower from multiple directions. It was the same tactic that had won him 43 victories. All ships, he commanded. Fire at will. 300 ships opened fire at once. The space between the fleets lit up like a star as plasma bolts and energy beams streaked toward the human vessels. Dr. Han watched from the surface, her hands pressed against her mouth. The Kreks barrage was incredible, enough firepower to destroy a planet. No 12 ships could survive that. But something strange happened. The human ships didn't try to dodge or hide behind shields. Instead, they seemed to dance. Each vessel moved, in a different direction, following patterns that made no sense to Dr. Han's eyes. The Kreks weapons fired where the ships had been, not where they were going, and then the humans fired back. But they didn't target the Kreks ships themselves. Instead, their weapons reached out like surgical tools, striking specific parts of specific vessels. Communication arrays exploded. Sensor clusters went dark. Engine sections sparked and failed. What are they doing? Minister Yura asked in amazement. Dr. Han was beginning to understand. Admiral Vorth refused to surrender. It was the biggest mistake of his life. From the bridge of the Death's Edge, he watched his fleet struggle against the human ships. Half his vessels could barely communicate with each other. A quarter were drifting, blind with their sensors destroyed. But he still had weapons. He still had 300 ships against 12. All vessels, he commanded over the emergency channel. Ignore the small targets. Focus all firepower on the largest human ship. It seemed like a good plan. Even if the humans had superior technology, concentrated fire from 300 ships should be able to destroy any single target. Admiral Vorth had used this tactic successfully many times before. The human response taught him why that was a mistake. Admiral Kim stood calmly on his bridge as plasma fire from hundreds of ships converged on his position. Around him, his crew worked with quiet efficiency. No one seemed worried about the incoming destruction. "Countermeasures deployed," reported Captain Shin. "Electronic jamming at full power," added Commander Jang. "Point defense systems active," called out Lieutenant Yoon. What happened next looked like magic to anyone watching. The massive barrage of weapons fire that should have destroyed the Soul's pride simply missed. Some shots went wide as their targeting systems failed. Others were deflected by defensive screens that seemed to bend space itself. A few actually hit, but the human ship's armor absorbed them like water-absorbing raindrops. "Impossible," whispered Admiral Vorth. "But the humans weren't finished." "All ships," Admiral Kim said quietly. "Begin Phase 2. Show them what human warfare actually looks like." The 12 human ships suddenly changed. Where before they had moved like dancers, now they moved like wolves. Fast, coordinated, deadly. They split into groups and dove into the Krex formation. Major SEO stood in the launch bay of the UES Busan Hammer, watching her Marines prepare for combat. 200 of the finest soldiers humanity had ever produced, armed with weapons that could cut through ship hulls like paper. "Listen up," she called out over the noise of launching fighters. "The Krex like to board other ships and kill civilians. Today, we're going to show them what it feels like when someone boards their ships." The Marines cheered. They had all read the reports about Krex atrocities. They had all seen the videos of burning cities and dead children. Today was payback. Time. "Remember," Major CO continued, "we're not here to capture ships. We're here to make sure these ships never threaten anyone again. Disable command centers. Destroy engine rooms. Take out life support. Make them regret ever heard of the Velrani." The first wave of human boarding pods launched 60 seconds later. Admiral Vorth watched in horror as small human craft punched through his ship's defenses like they weren't even there. His weapons couldn't lock onto them. His shields didn't stop them. They moved too fast and struck too precisely. "Sir," Commander Drack reported, his voice shaking, "we have boarders on 17 ships. They're not trying to capture the vessels. They're destroying everything they can find. Send security teams to repel them." "We tried, sir. The humans are... They're cutting through our soldiers like they're not even there." On the death's edge, alarms began screaming. The ship shuddered as something exploded deep in its hull. "Report," Vorth demanded. "Boarders in engineering," came the reply. "They've destroyed the main power coupling. We're losing engine power." Another explosion. This one closer. The lights flickered. "Boarders in communications. All long-range transmitters are down." And another. "Boarders in the command center auxiliary. They've destroyed the backup computers." Admiral Vorth began to understand what was happening. The humans weren't trying to capture his ships. They were systematically destroying everything that made them functional. Within hours, his mighty fleet would be nothing but floating scrap metal. "All ships," he broadcast on the few channels still working. "Emergency retreat, get out of here now." But it was too late. Captain Park commanded the human fighter squadrons, and he had been waiting for this moment. As soon as the Krex ships tried to run, his pilots moved to block their escape routes. The human fighters were small and fast, but they carried weapons that could punch holes in battleship armor. They swarmed around the fleeing Krex vessels like angry insects, targeting engines and navigation systems. "This is Red Leader," Park reported to Admiral Kim. "The Krex are trying to retreat. Should we let them go?" Admiral Kim's response was immediate. "Negative. These ships have killed billions of civilians across 43 star systems. They don't get to run away and do it again somewhere else." "Understood, sir. Beginning pursuit." Dr. Han watched the battle from her observation center on Velrani Prime, and she could barely believe what she was seeing. The massive Krex fleet was falling apart like a broken machine. Ships drifted helplessly through space. Others exploded as their internal systems overloaded. A few tried to escape, but the human fighters hunted them down with ruthless efficiency. "Minister Yura," she said quietly, "are you recording all of this?" "Yes, Dr. Han, every detail." "Good. I want a complete record. No one is going to believe this unless they see it themselves." Minister Yura looked at the tactical display, where red dots representing Krex ships were disappearing one by one. "Dr. Han, I don't understand how this is possible. The humans only have 12 ships." Dr. Han had been thinking about the same thing. As a scientist, she tried to analyze everything she observed. But this battle defied normal logic. "I think," she said slowly, "that we misunderstood what the humans meant when they said they would help us." "What do you mean?" "We asked them to evacuate our civilians because we thought the Krex were a natural disaster, something you run away from. But the humans don't think like that. To them, the Krex aren't a disaster. They're a problem that needs to be solved, Anati." Her screen, another Krex ship, went dark as human Marines disabled its power systems. "And humans," Dr. Han continued, "are very good at solving problems. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, not a single Krex ship remained functional. Most were completely destroyed. The rest drifted as lifeless hulks through space, their crews either dead or rescued by human ships. Admiral Vorth found himself in a prison cell aboard the Soul's Pride, staring across a metal table at Admiral Kim. The human looked exactly the same as he had at the beginning of the battle. Calm, professional, completely untroubled by what had just happened. 300 ships, Vorth said quietly. "I had 300 ships. You had 300. "Targets," Admiral Kim corrected. "There's a difference." "How?" Vorth demanded. "How did you do this?" Admiral Kim leaned back in his chair. "Admiral, how long have you been using the same battle tactics?" "What do you mean?" "The attack formation you used today. The concentrated firepower strategy. The boarding techniques. How long has the Krex military been using these same approaches?" Vorth thought about it. 20 years, maybe more. They work. We've conquered 43 systems." "Against whom?" "What? Who did you fight in those 43 systems? What kind of opposition did you face?" Vorth frowned. "Civilian populations, mostly. Some had small defense forces, but nothing significant." Admiral Kim nodded. "So you've spent 20 years perfecting tactics for fighting farmers and merchants, and then you tried to use those same tactics against a military force that's been fighting real wars for centuries." "Real wars?" "Admiral, humans have been at war with something or someone for our entire history. We've fought each other, fought our environment, fought alien invasions, fought diseases, fought everything. We don't just study warfare, we live it." Admiral Kim touched a control on the table, and a holographic display appeared showing the battle they had just fought. "Your ships moved in predictable patterns," he continued. "Your weapons targeted obvious locations. Your communications used standard frequencies. Your tactics followed doctrine written decades ago," He pointed to the display. We didn't defeat you because we're stronger. We defeated you because you never learned how to fight a real enemy. Vorth stared at the tactical replay, watching his fleet get dismantled with surgical precision. What happens now? Now, Admiral Kim said, you're going to help us send a message to the rest of the Krex Dominion. What kind of message? Admiral Kim's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes made Vorth want to look away. The kind of message that explains why attacking civilians is a very bad idea. 3 hours later, Dr. Han received a call from Admiral Kim. Dr. Han, the Krex threat to your people has been eliminated. Your system is secure. Dr. Han looked out. Her window at the sky above Velrani Prime. It was full of human ships. Not the dark, threatening shapes of the Krex fleet, but clean, purposeful vessels that radiated competence and control. Admiral, I don't know how to thank you. We asked for evacuation ships and you saved our entire world. Dr. Han, when someone asks humans for help, we help. That's what we do. But the cost, you came so far, brought so many ships. Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. Dr. Han, you know how many humans died in this operation? She checked her data. No casualties reported from your fleet. None. 0 human deaths. A few minor injuries when some Marines tripped over Krex equipment. But that's all. Dr. Han felt confused. How is that possible? You just fought the largest battle this sector has seen in decades. We didn't fight a battle, Dr. Han. We solved a problem. Admiral Vorth sat in the small gray room aboard the human ship and tried to understand how his life had gone so wrong so quickly. 6 hours ago, he had commanded the most powerful fleet in this sector of space. Now he was a prisoner, and his ships were floating debris. The door opened, and Admiral Kim walked in, carrying a datapad and 2 cups of coffee. He set 1 cup in front of Vorth and sat down across from him. Drink, Kim said simply. It's good coffee. Vorth stared at the cup, suspiciously. Is it poisoned? If we wanted you dead, Admiral, you would be dead. We want you alive and healthy. You have work to do. Vorth picked up the cup and tasted the coffee. It was good. Better than anything he had tasted on Krex ships. Even the humans' prison food was superior to Krex military rations. What kind of work? He asked. Admiral Kim activated his datapad and turned it so Vorth could see the screen. It showed a map of local space with dozens of red dots marking different star systems. These are Krex-controlled territories, Kim explained. 43. Systems conquered over the past 20 years. According to our intelligence, most of these conquests involve targeting civilian populations. Vorth nodded. It was true, though he wasn't proud of it anymore. Our records show approximately 2.8 billion civilian deaths, Kim continued. Men, women, children, farmers, artists, teachers, doctors, people who never hurt anyone. What's your point? Vorth asked, though he was beginning to suspect he knew. Admiral Kim touched another control, and the display changed. Now it showed images, cities burning, families being separated, children crying for parents who would never come home. Vorth had seen similar images before, but he had always tried not to think about them. My point, Admiral, is that your military doctrine is based on terrorizing defenseless people. You've gotten very good at killing civilians, but you've never learned how to fight soldiers. Kim swiped to another screen showing tactical analysis of the battle they had just fought. Your formations were textbook perfect for fighting merchant ships and research stations. Your weapons were designed to destroy buildings and terrify populations. Your communications protocols assumed no serious electronic warfare. He looked directly at Vorth. You built a military force to fight farmers. Then you tried to use it against warriors. Vorth studied the battle analysis and felt shame wash over him. The humans were right. Everything about Krek's military doctrine was designed for quick victories against weak opponents. When faced with a real military force, they had collapsed completely. "What do you want me to do?" he asked quietly. Admiral Kim leaned forward. "I want you to send a message to every Krek's commander in your territory. I want you to tell them exactly what happened here. They won't believe it. Then we'll provide proof." Kim touched his datapad again, and a new image appeared. The wreckage of the Krek's fleet floating in space around Velrani Prime. Hundreds of ships reduced to scrap metal in 6 hours. "Admiral Vorth," Kim said, "you're going to explain to your people that the age of easy conquests is over. You're going to tell them that if they continue targeting civilian populations, they will face the consequences." "What consequences?" "Admiral." Kim was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very calm and very certain. "Us." 2 hours later, Vorth found himself sitting in front of a camera in the human ship's communication center. The message he was about to send would reach every Krek's base, every Krek's ship, every Krek's commander in this part of the galaxy. "This is Admiral Vorth of the Krek's Third Conquest Fleet," he began. His voice sounded strange in his own ears, defeated, hollow. "I am transmitting from aboard a human vessel. Our attack on the Velrani Commonwealth has failed." He paused, looking at the camera. Behind it, Admiral Kim stood watching along with several other human officers. They weren't threatening him or holding weapons. They didn't need to. Their mere presence was enough. "The humans came with 12 ships," Vorth continued. "We had 300. The battle lasted 6 hours. When it was over, our entire fleet was destroyed or disabled. Human casualties, 0. He stopped again, remembering the systematic way the humans had dismantled his forces. It hadn't been a battle. It had been a lesson. "I want every Krek's commander listening to understand what this means," he said. "The humans didn't defeat us because they had better ships or more weapons. They defeated us because we never learned how to fight a real enemy. We've spent 20 years conquering defenseless worlds. The humans have spent centuries fighting real wars." Vorth held up a data pad showing images of the destroyed fleet. "This is what remains of the Third Conquest Fleet. 300 ships reduced to scrap metal, and according to Admiral Kim, this was just a demonstration. The humans have 17 battle fleets. This was just one of them." He leaned forward, looking directly into the camera. "Any commander who thinks they can do better than I did is welcome to try. But understand this. When you attack civilians, you're not just fighting those civilians anymore. You're fighting the humans, too. And the humans don't lose," the message ended. Within hours, it was spreading through Krek's space faster than their fastest ships could travel. On Krek's Prime, the capital world of the Dominion, General Korks received the transmission in his war room. He watched it 3 times, then called his senior staff together. "Opinions?" he asked. Commander Vel, his chief tactical officer, spoke first. "Sir, Admiral Vorth has always been reliable. If he says the humans destroyed his fleet, then they destroyed his fleet." 300 ships, muttered General Korks. "Gone." "Sir," said Intelligence Chief Mex, "we've been monitoring human activities since they joined the Galactic Council. They've never shown this level of military capability before." "Maybe they were hiding it," suggested Commander Vel. "Or maybe," said General Korks quietly, "they were never threatened enough to show it." He activated the tactical display, showing Krex territories throughout the sector. Red dots marked their conquests, green dots marked targets for future expansion. How many of our victories were against military targets? He asked. The room went quiet. Everyone knew the answer. None, sir, Commander Vell admitted. We've always focused on easy targets. Civilian populations, agricultural worlds, research, stations. And now we've learned what happens when you threaten civilians who have military allies. General Corks stared at the map for a long time. 43 systems conquered. 2.8 billion civilians dead. 20 years of easy victories against defenseless opponents. Send a message to all fleet commanders, he ordered. Effective immediately, all expansion operations are suspended. All forces are to withdraw to defensive positions. Sir? Commander. Vell looked confused. We're retreating? We're surviving, General Corks replied. There's a difference. Back on Velrani Prime, Dr. Han was trying to understand the implications of what had happened. The humans had saved her world, but they had also fundamentally changed the balance of power in this part of the galaxy. She sat in her office with Minister Yura, watching reports from across the sector. The Krex withdrawal was happening faster than anyone had expected. Ship after ship was leaving conquered territories and heading back to Krex space. Dr. Han, Minister Yura said, do you think the humans planned this? Planned what? All of it. The way they responded to our request, the way they fought the battle, the message Admiral Vorth sent. Do you think they knew this would cause the Krex to retreat from all their territories? Dr. Han considered the question. She thought about Admiral Kim's calm demeanor, the precise way his forces had operated, the systematic destruction of the Krex fleet. Yes, she said finally. I think they knew exactly what would happen. Then why didn't they tell us? Because we asked for help evacuating civilians. We didn't ask them to overthrow the most powerful military force in the sector. Minister Yura looked confused. But that's what they did. No, Dr. Han said slowly. What they did was solve our problem. We had a Krex fleet threatening our people. Now we don't. They gave us exactly what we asked for. They just did it in the most permanent way possible. A new message came through on her communication system. It was from Admiral Kim. Dr. Han, this is Admiral Kim. Our mission here is complete. We'll be departing Velrani space in 6 hours. Admiral, Dr. Han replied. Will the Krex come back? No, Dr. Han, they won't. We've made sure of that. How can you be certain? Because, Admiral Kim said, they now understand the cost of threatening people who have asked for our protection. The mathematics are very simple. It costs them too much and gives them too little. Dr. Han felt relieved, but also curious. Admiral, can I ask you something? Of course. When we asked for help, did you know you were going to do this? Did you plan to destroy the entire Krex fleet? Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. Dr. Han, when someone asks humans for help, we help them. How we help depends on what kind of help they need. You needed the Krex to stop threatening your people. This was the most efficient way to make that happen. But you brought enough ships to fight a war. Dr. Han, Admiral Kim said patiently, we brought enough ships to solve your problem. If the Krex had withdrawn when we asked them to, no fighting would have been necessary. They chose to engage us. We simply responded appropriately. After the call ended, Dr. Han sat quietly, thinking about the human definition of appropriate response. 6 months later, the Galactic Council chamber looked very different. The same representatives sat in the same seats, but the atmosphere had changed completely. Where once there had been chaos and panic, now there was a strange kind of quiet. Order. Ambassador Quan stood at the human section, watching as species after species reported on the new state of affairs in their territories. The changes had been dramatic and swift. "The Krex Dominion has formally requested a peace treaty," announced Council Chairman Vextar. "They offer full reparations to all civilian populations harmed during their expansion period. They also agree to withdraw from all contested territories and accept permanent monitoring of their military activities." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. The Krex had been the most aggressive military force in this sector for 20 years. The idea of them asking for peace was almost unthinkable. "What were the terms demanded by the human military?" asked the Karathi representative. Quan stood slowly. "None," he said simply. The chamber went quiet. "None?" pressed the Karathi. "No territorial concessions, no trade agreements, no military bases." "The Krex asked for peace," Quan replied. "We accepted. We don't require payment for people to stop killing civilians." Chairman Vextar leaned forward. "Ambassador Quan, surely the human government has some strategic interest in this region?" "Our interest is simple," Quan said. "People asked us for help. We helped them. The situation is resolved." Dr. Han sat in the observer section, watching the exchange with fascination. She had been studying human behavior for months now, trying to understand how they thought about conflict and resolution. The more she learned, the more amazed she became. After the council session, she approached Ambassador Quan in the corridor outside the chamber. "Ambassador," she said, "may I ask you something?" "Of course, Dr. Han. How are things on Velrani Prime?" "Peaceful. Very peaceful. We're actually growing more food now than we ever have before." She paused. "Ambassador, I've been studying the results of your intervention in our system. 43 worlds have been liberated from Krex control. Billions of people are free. The entire balance of power in this sector has shifted." Quan nodded. "Yes, that seems to be what happened." "Did you plan this?" Quan looked at her with genuine confusion. "Plan what, Dr. Han?" "The liberation of 43. Star systems. The collapse of the Krex military. The fundamental restructuring of regional politics. Dr. Han, we responded to a request for assistance. Everything else was just consequences." Dr. Han studied the human ambassador's face. He seemed completely sincere. As far as he was concerned, the humans had simply helped some farmers with a pest problem. The fact that it had reshaped galactic politics was apparently irrelevant. "Ambassador, do you understand what your people have accomplished?" Quan thought about it. "We solved a problem that was causing civilian casualties. That's what we were asked to do." "But the implications." "Dr. Han," Quan interrupted gently, "implications are for politicians to worry about. We're just trying to help." Later that day, Dr. Han visited the Human Military Liaison Office on the Council Station. She wanted to speak with Captain Wu, who had been assigned as a permanent advisor to help other species understand human military procedures. She found him in a conference room with Minister Yura, who was now serving as the Velrani's military coordinator, a job that hadn't existed before the humans arrived. "Dr. Han," Captain Wu greeted her. "Minister Yura was just asking about human training programs." "Training programs?" Minister Yura looked excited. "Dr. Han, the humans have offered to help us establish our own defense force. They say that people who can't protect themselves will always be targets for bullies." Dr. Han felt surprised. The Velrani are pacifists. We've never had a military. We still don't want one, Yura replied. But we've learned that sometimes you need to be able to defend peaceful things from people who don't respect peace. Captain Wu nodded. It's a common problem. Most species develop military capabilities only after they're attacked. By then, it's often too late to save the people you want to protect. But we asked you for help, Dr. Han pointed out. You solved our problem. This time, Captain Wu agreed. But what happens next time? What if you need help and we're not available? Dr. Han hadn't considered that possibility. Are you going somewhere? Dr. Han, the galaxy is a big place. There are a lot of people who might need help someday. We can't be everywhere at once. He activated a holographic display showing local space. Red dots marked systems where conflicts were currently active. Yellow dots showed areas with potential problems. Green dots represented peaceful territories. Right. Now, Captain Wu explained, this region is mostly green because the Krex threat has been eliminated, but new threats can develop. Pirates might move in. Other military forces might try to fill the power vacuum, or entirely new problems might emerge. Minister Yura leaned forward. That's why we want to learn how to protect ourselves, not to attack anyone, but to make sure that if someone threatens our people again, we can respond appropriately. Dr. Han looked at the display and slowly began to understand. The humans hadn't just solved the Velrani's immediate problem, they had changed how the Velrani thought about problems in general. Captain Wu, she said, what exactly are you teaching Minister Yura? Basic defensive strategies, how to detect threats early, how to coordinate with allies, how to make potential aggressors understand that attacking you would cost more than it's worth. You're teaching us to think like humans, Captain Wu smiled. I'm teaching you to think like people who want to protect things they care about. Humans didn't invent that idea. We just got very good at it. 3 days later, Dr. Han received an urgent message from the Zephyrian Colonial Assembly. She had never heard of them before, but the message was similar to the one the Velrani had sent 6 months earlier. This is Colonial Administrator Jin of the Zephyrian Assembly, the transmission began. We are under attack by the Ravager clans. We have heard about what happened at Velrani Prime. We are not asking for evacuation support. We are asking if the humans would be willing to solve our problem permanently. Dr. Han stared at the screen. The Zephyrians had learned from the Velrani. Example, instead of asking for rescue ships, they were directly requesting the elimination of the threat. She forwarded the message to Admiral Kim, who was still in the sector coordinating the liberation of former Krex territories. His response came back. Within an hour. Dr. Han, thank you for forwarding this request. We are always willing to help people who ask for assistance. The 5th Battle Group is being deployed to Zephyrian space immediately. Dr. Han sat back in her chair, thinking about what she had just witnessed. The humans had established a new paradigm for galactic conflict resolution. Instead of long negotiations or gradual military buildups, they offered immediate and permanent solutions to anyone who asked for help. It was terrifyingly effective. Minister Yura knocked on her office door. Dr. Han, we've received word from the Galactic Council. They're establishing a new organization called the Galactic Security Division. They want human military advisors to help coordinate responses to civilian threats throughout the galaxy. And the humans agreed? Admiral Kim has been appointed as the first director. He'll oversee rapid response teams for any world that requests assistance. Dr. Han nodded slowly. So the humans are now officially responsible for maintaining peace throughout the galaxy? Not maintaining it, Minister Yura corrected. Restoring it when someone breaks it. That evening, Dr. Han received a personal message from Admiral Kim. He was preparing to leave Velrani space to take up his new position. Dr. Han, he said, I wanted to thank you for your assistance during our operation here. Your scientific insights were very helpful. Admiral, can I ask you something? Of course. Do you understand what you've done? You've fundamentally changed how the galaxy works. Every species now knows that if they ask humans for help, they'll get it. Every aggressor knows that attacking civilians means facing human military force. Admiral Kim was quiet for a moment. Dr. Han, 6 months ago, children were dying in your cities. Now they're not. That's all that really matters. But the implications for galactic politics. Dr. Han, Admiral Kim interrupted gently. Politics is about who has power and how they use it. We're not interested in power. We're interested in making sure that people who need help can get it. What if someone asks for help with something you disagree with? Then we'll help them find a better solution to their problem. After the call ended, Dr. Han walked outside and looked up at the night sky above Velrani Prime. It was full of stars, each one representing potentially billions of people living their lives in peace or conflict, for the first time in galactic history. Those people knew that if they truly needed help, if their children were in danger, if their homes were being destroyed, if their very existence was threatened, they could ask for assistance and receive it. The humans had made themselves the galaxy's emergency response system, not through conquest or political maneuvering, but simply by being willing to help when asked. It was the most revolutionary development in interstellar relations since the invention of faster-than-light travel, and the humans treated it like it was the most natural thing in the universe. 3 weeks later, Dr. Han received a report from the Zephyrian.